All right, so we talked about grep briefly before, but we're going to go in a little more detail about some of the different things you can do with grep. So, like we used before, you can look for certain things. For example, if I wanted to look for my user ID in the password file, I could put whatever I want to look for. This is my user ID, and then an Etsy password. That's the file that stores the user information. The password's not actually stored in there anymore. It used to be back in the olden days. But I can do that, and it shows me my line. What am I going to do with this line? Well, whatever I want. Grep is useful when you're like, oh, hey, does this person exist on this system? Or, oh, hey, I have this file of things. Let me see if this other thing I'm looking for is in that file of things. So you can do that. I could also do like grep minus v. Sometimes you want to see if all the lines that don't match something. So actually, let's not do that. Let's do something else first. So another thing I might want to look at is all the users that have uh, the bash shell as their default login shell on the system. So I can put bin bash, right? So there it shows me there's 1, 2, 3, 4 users with the bin bash as their shell. Another thing I might want to look at is how many users don't have the bin bash shell. So if you put a -v on the grep, it will show you things that don't match. So this is going to show me all the lines that don't match bin bash. So there's all the users that don't have bin bash for their shell. So that's another example. -v will show you lines that do not match the pattern. We might want to know. Okay, so that was looking for a specific thing in a specific file. We also sometimes might want to just look for a thing in a bunch of files. Like for some reason I need to know all the different files that have bash because we're going to change the default shell and I just want to see where it's used. So I can do something like this. I can look for bash in Etsy. If I do something like this, that'll show me any line that has bash on it in Etsy. And oh, hey, I got a bunch of permission denied errors and is a directory errors. So if I want to look down within those directories, I can do a -r to tell it to do it recursively, right? I still got a bunch of permission denied errors, so I'll get rid of those with the handy to and thing we learned earlier. So this shows me all the places where bash is found inside any directories under Etsy. So without the R, we only get the files in Etsy. So see, this is Etsy, sysconfig, some other stuff. If I don't do the R, that only shows me files that exist directly in Etsy. So depending on what you're looking for, you might want to do an R, you might not want to do an R. If you notice, I have like the same file show up multiple times, and it shows me the lines from the file. If I don't really care about the lines that match, I just want to see the file names, I can do a -L, and that will show me the file names that have bash in it. So now if I was doing some process to examine those files further, I could go ahead and run through that process. So to summarize, grep will show you lines that match. Up here I have lines that match the pattern. Grep -v will show you lines that don't match the pattern, and grep -l will show you just the file name. Another one we're not going to exercise right now because I don't know if I have a sample file. If you do an I, that will ignore case. By default, bash is case sensitive. So if I had something that had a capital B, it wouldn't have shown that anywhere. So let me create a temporary file. Just so we can see what I'm talking about. Right. So with the I, we will see my temp file, right? Temp file shows up because I said case insensitive, but without the I, temp file didn't show up. So it's case sensitive. If you don't care about case, do an I. So -I for case sensitive, -L shows you the file names, and -V for the reverse matches, things that don't match. So that's how grep can be used. But grep can have unexpected matches. For example, there's a user on the system called bin, B-I-N. If I wanted to get the user line from Etsy password for the bin user, I might be able to do something like this, right? And then expect I would see the bin user. But it turns out every user's line has bin on it, almost every user, because the shells live in bin. So this is a problem. I did actually get the bin user. I did get the bin user, but I got a ton of other stuff too. So we have to be careful when we're using grep. There's a couple things you can do. Like I said, grep can work on regular expressions. So the caret sign means matches the beginning of the line. So I noticed up here that the bin user was at the beginning of the line. So I can do something like that and see what happens. And now I got less stuff, but I also have a user called bin4589 that matched that I didn't want to match. So, you know, using my deductive skills, I can say, oh hey, well, if it matches the beginning of the line and then ends with a colon, then that should match exactly. So I can put a colon here, and that gets that. So sometimes you need to be very specific about your patterns you're matching, and sometimes you end up matching things you don't expect to match. So sometimes you might want to be more careful with your matching. And I'll talk about another tool later on that can do that. But right now I'm going to talk about cut. So cut is a tool that you can use to get specific fields from a file. So in this case, let's say I want to get all the users that have bin bash for their shell. Let me go back and find that command. I want to get users that have bin bash for their shell. But I don't want the whole line. All right, let's put some space. I just want to get the user's name and their home directory. So, well, first we'll just get their name. So we can use cut to pull specific fields out of a file. And with cut, the default delimiter is tab. The delimiter is the thing that separates the different fields. In this case, the delimiter is a colon. So we need to tell cut what the delimiter is. Is a colon. I'll put that in double quotes. I think I need to put that in double quotes. And then you tell it what field you want. I just said I want to get the user's username. So that'd be field 1. So there we go. I got all the users from bin bash had Etsy password, and I got their username. But what if I wanted to get more than one field? Is there a way to do that? Well, I'm going to try to get their username and their home directory. So their username is field 1. This is 2, 3, 4, 5. This was 5 right here. It's blank. 6. So field 6 is their home directory. I think I do a comma. Let's try this. Yeah. So that got me the user's username and home directory. So that's cool. So that's the way you can use cut to get specific fields out of the password file. All right, I mentioned before that we need to be really careful when we're trying to get specific things using grep, that sometimes we get things we don't want and sometimes we don't get enough. So there's a tool we can use to do matching more specifically. So if we remember, when I looked for bin, I was looking for the bin user from Etsy password. Right, I got tons of stuff, and I finally got down to the point where I got what I was looking for with caret and a colon. So that got me exactly what I was looking for. But there are times when you may need to be more precise, and there's a tool that you can use to be more precise with your matching, and it's awk. Awk is a tool that can do a lot of things, and we're only going to touch on the surface of it right now. Here's how I use awk. I use awk for matching specific positional locations and printing out customized output. So we'll go through both of those things. So with awk, you have to tell it the delimiter, and they call the delimiter the field separator. So that's a dash capital F, and in this file, the field separator is colon. So I'm going to say dash F colon. And then the syntax for basic pattern matching is to tell it what field you're looking at. I want to look at $1. This tilde means pattern matching, and then the pattern you're looking for. So I'm looking for $1 has a bin, and then you tell it where you want it to look. So I want you to look in the Etsy password file. So this is going to get us an extra field because we have my bin4589 user. So if we run that, we get the 2 lines. So now we can put in a more exact regular expression. Before we did caret, meaning, hey, this line starts with bin, which we use in grep, and if we run that, we'll get the same output. But you can use another regular expression character, the $sign. The $sign basically means end of the field. So basically, I want the field to start, I want the field to have bin, and I want the field to end. So this should get me exactly what I want. So that got me exactly what I want. The field started, the field ended, and had bin in the middle. So If I want to change what is printing, I can include a print statement. So the default is to print the whole line. If I want to print just the username, I can do print $1, and that printed just the username. So that was kind of like our cut with dash F1. If I want to get the but I get the home directory, so that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 field. I can do print $1, $6, but you notice it jammed them all together. So you can put text in here as well. So I can put a space, right? So that put the home the username in the home directory, right? So I can also put words in there. So this is a very flexible tool when you're doing things. The user $1, and then I want to put parentheses s home directory is. So I can put words in there to go along with my positional parameters. And I didn't close one of my double quotes apparently. Oh, it doesn't like that slash, so I need to escape. Sometimes special characters need special treatment, and hopefully this is going to work. And that didn't work, so I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to get rid of that apostrophe because that's messing everything up. There we go. The user bin's home directory is /bin. So this single quote's a special character, right? Because I had one where I had one over here. So it was messing things up. Lots of times putting a slash in front of it will fix it, but it did not fix it inside there, and I'm not sure why. And I don't really feel like trying to figure it out right now. So that's one of the cool things about awk that is that you can put text in with what you're printing, and you control more what you're printing. Another good thing about awk with grep, you can really it's more complex to search for multiple patterns. But say I only wanted to look for users who had bin bash, who had, let's see what I want to look for. I want to look for users. All right, here we go. I'm going to look for users whose comment starts with CIS 264. So that's going to be field 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's going to be field 5. Field 5. I'm going to get rid of the $sign because I just want starts with, right? So let's see what this gets us. So we'll get their username and their home directory. So that's got us all the usernames and home directories, right? So now I want to also look at something else. I want to look, what else do I want to look at? All right, so I want to know if I have any CIS 264 users who have bin bash as their shell, because you guys are supposed to have a special shell. So I can put two conditions together. I can put two ands, and then I can say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So $7 matches bash. And this will show me any users that have bash as their shell, hopefully. So I only had one user that had CIS 264 in the comment and had bash as a shell, and that's my test user, so that's fine. Awk can do tons of things, like I said before, and I use it for this type of stuff. If I want to match more than one thing on a line, and I want to print out some customized output, I do that. One other thing I guess I could tell you, you can also look for things that don't match. So you put a tilde in front of the tilde, exclamation point in front of the tilde, and this will show us users that have CIS 264 but do not have bash. So that was the opposite match. So that tilde looks for things that don't match. So that's how awk can be used for pattern matching and printing out customized output. And there's a page I was looking at earlier about awk, and I'll post a link to this in D2L, and you can look through that if you have any more questions or want to know some of the other things it can do.